This is the March 26, 2024 meeting of Clarksville Montgomery County Regional Planning Commission. If you would, let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Commissioners, you've had an opportunity to look at the minutes of the February 27 meeting. Are there any changes or additions that need to be made? If not,
Make a motion for approval.
Second.
got a motion properly made second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, also. Okay. Mr. Tindall.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We do have two deferrals today. The first one is case number 2, Z5 2024, application of the Conwood Company. And then going back to the third from last page, on page 6, case number 13. Sorry to disappoint some people. Jim and Nick's will be deferred a month. Those two are the deferrals this month.
Which one?
We'll need a
This
motion.
one?
Yeah, they got a few down there still.
No, they're gone.
Oh, they're on the other side.
they're
I
on the
think.
other
We need a motion to approve the deferrals.
Make a motion to approve the deferrals as stated.
Second.
Got a motion properly made second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Okay,
What's this one?
Mr. Tindall. Whatever.
That's all. We can start with the city zoning cases, Mr. Chairman.
John Spainhoward will be making a presentation of the rezoning cases today. We allow up to 3 speakers for each rezoning case, up to 3 speakers against. Each person is allowed 3 minutes, and then you've got to take your seat after that. The applicant is allowed a rebuttal after the last person that is against the case has finished with their speech. Keep in mind that our recommendations here are recommendations only. The cases will go forward to the city or the county depending on where they're located. If you want to know the dates, the front page of today's minutes presentation or agenda, it's got the specifics about city and county dates and what time those meetings start. So please keep those in mind. City council requires 2 approvals for something to pass. The county only requires 1. So you don't want to miss that one meeting if you've got a case that's in the county that you have some interest in. So with nothing else, Mr. Spainhauer.
Mr. Chairman, before we get started, if you guys notice, we have a kind of a new look to the staff report and the agenda. I'd like to take this opportunity to really thank a couple of members of our staff who've dedicated a lot of time to this update. Mr. Sam McKenna and Jackie Jones spent a lot of time with our FileMaker update. So if you see something misplaced or missing, if you'll call our attention to it, we think we've proofed these pretty well, but we'll make sure we get it added back to the staff report. But I did want to thank those individuals for the amount of time and effort they've put into this update. With that said, we start on case Z70 2023. It is the application of PB&J. This application went forward with the recommendation of the staff with approval with conditions, and the Planning Commission with approval with conditions. Spent time at the City Council under review. The short of the matter is the number of peak trips did not require a traffic assessment to be required at the street department level or at the Planning Commission level, but the City Council used a portion of the provision that says they can call for a traffic assessment, and since did so. That traffic assessment has been submitted to the Clarksville Street Department and gone through review and been submitted with the findings of that report. And so your staff report is pretty much the same as last time, with that update, but I will go through it because we do have a new member on our planning commission. So requested to go from R1 Single Family Residential District to PUD Plan Unit Residential District. It's for a property fronting on Manning Heights at the northeast corner of Riverside Drive and the Cumberland Drive intersection. Encompasses just over 2 acres at 2.16. It's described as former residential home lots with moderate to steep topography. The applicant's statement for this rezoning request is the rezoning will provide much-needed housing opportunities in the downtown area and will provide additional economic activity in the area and enhance this portion of the Riverside Drive corridor. Page 2 of the staff report, you'll see the department comments that were submitted in reference to this case. Call your attention to the street department's comments that state provide a 24-foot width on the travel easement, 18-foot width on Manning Heights to accommodate emergency response vehicles. Traffic study submitted. The comments from that were additional traffic from this development does not adversely affect the intersection level of service, and their department accepts the study. The remaining comments, I'll call your attention to the school system comments. Since these comments have been made, we've met with the school system. I think there was some question about the total number of students generated, and they used to provide a calculation based on just the number of units. What we're seeing now is a change from a lot of apartments, instead of a minimum of 2 units to 1-bedroom units, and they'll be working on a new formula for calculation of number of students from multifamily developments. So that number, I think they self-admitted, is a likely much higher than it should be. Next page of the staff report, the impact would be increased multifamily residential density, accessible from Manning Heights and Edge Hill Drive. The applicant's calling for 72 units, 32 of which are 1-bedroom, 40 which are 2-bedroom. Staff's recommendation is listed for approval, and it's with the conditions listed in the PUD report. The proposed PUD includes a number of transportation improvements. The Clarksville Street Department and Clarksville Fire Rescue deemed acceptable a proposed 24-foot wide travel easement along the frontage of the development and widening the remaining portions of Manning Heights' existing public right-of-way to the east to a width of 18 feet to facilitate two-way traffic and improve emergency vehicle access. The Edge Hill Drive access to the development will be moved east from the Riverside Drive to create a safer access to the development and Riverside Drive, and also additional 5 feet of pavement will be added to the south frontage of Edge Hill Drive for the depth of the development to improve roadway access. Jump ahead here. Some of these items are items that are required through the PUD planning process, such as when the pre-application conference date. Those are listed there for you. The other minimum requirements of the PUD requirements are shown there on page 4. Those have been met. The traffic impact study was required by the Clarksville City Council of Clarksville. The summary from the street department was that there is no adverse effect from this development from a traffic standpoint. The other items of the PUD requirements have been met, will be met through the landscaping process and final review. Fire department had some additional requirements for access, of which include the removal of a tree line along Edge Hill Drive. That will be accommodated. There are additional markings for pavement for fire department access and fire hydrant locations. Those will have already been accommodated as part of the plan and will be accommodated for in the review of the landscape plan. Back to the staff's recommendation with conditions. You may all recall that the bottom portion of this property shows a portion of property being included within this development that is known as TDOT right-of-way. This plan on the screen, it would show it, that would be in the bottom left-hand corner. We're comfortable conditioning that. We've talked to members of TDOT. They have verified that portion. They do have a mechanism to allow individuals to go and try to acquire the property that's in question. But essentially, the condition states we're recommending approval of this PUD plan. The labeled 24-foot travel easement, parking, and landscaping for this development has been shown within that TDOT right-of-way. As mentioned, TDOT representatives with the Region 3 office stated that the developer may go through TDOT's excess land group if they want to pursue use of this right-of-way. The application shows the portions of the 24-foot travel easement, parking, and landscaping for this development within the right-of-way, with the understanding that this proposed PUD plan cannot receive final approval until the developer or owner acquires the area that is in the TDOT right-of-way mentioned previously. It's also noted that the condition provides no guarantee that TDOT will agree to transfer this property for use of the development, and moving portions of the project forward without TDOT's agreement is by the developer or owner's own risk. If the final PUD plan is not submitted with the TDOT area of land under ownership, as stated in the PUD regulations, the application can be rezoned back to its original zoning or a prelim PUD extension granted by the RPC. The short of the matter is, this is a prelim approval for the zoning. It will change the zoning if it's passed by 2 readings at City Council. That will afford them 36 months from that approval to accommodate or acquire the land that's shown there. And if they do not do so, then they have the ability to come back in that time period, request an extension from the Planning Commission. If they do not get the extension, then the land would revert back to its current zoning, and this plan can't move forward. Mr. Chairman, before we take public comments, I know there's a lot thrown at you there. If you've got any questions, I can try to answer them before we get to the public comment period.
Commissioners, any questions?
I guess I should show you the rest of the maps that are available. They're through, I believe, 9 through, including the elevations on 14, 15, 16. There were public comments under the original application. There's been none received since it's been forwarded back. But you do have the plans that were shown on the screen and the zoning map overviews that were on the screen as well, if you have questions or need to be referred to. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are now in public hearing. Is there anyone here who'd like to speak on behalf of case Z70 2023?
Good afternoon, Bryce Powers representing the developers. As John presented to you, you've seen this case before. Not a lot's changed since the last time you saw it. A little bit of changes to the amenities within the project area, as well as widening of Manning Heights from 16 to 18 feet. That all kind of happened after we met here last time. Other than that, the traffic study was prepared, kind of showed this project just doesn't really have an impact on the intersection there of 4813 and Riverside Drive. So, last time you guys voted unanimously for this, we'd ask for your approval again, and happy to answer any questions you might have as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Powers. Is there anyone else here to speak in favor of Z70? Okay. Anyone here who would like to speak against Z70 2023? Please come forward. Identify yourself and a mailing address.
My name is Daniel Nelms, and I'm reading for Robert Jensen, who lives at 1094 Manning Heights. The residents still oppose this project based on our previous statements. The new drawing does not show any valid reason to change our stance. They intend to change the elevation from my property line straight down 40 to 60 feet, creating a cliff. This will have to be blasted as they are on Cumberland, as they did on Cumberland Heights in 1957. Those scars are still on the face of the stone today. This blasting is going to disturb the stone and land under my home and put my home's foundation in jeopardy. Who will be responsible for the damage in the long term? These homes were placed on a ridge on this stone. They are planning to remove all the trees on Manning Heights from 1056 down to Edge Hill Drive. This will leave us completely exposed to the public when this street was very private. When I bought the house, it was like buying a park in the forest with established trees. If Z70 2023 passes, what we see is the intersection. Bright lights from Gary Matthews Chrysler and the lights from the cars all the way down Highway 48, street lights from parking of the 72 units next door. From the tear down all the trees that cover and secluding Manning Heights, they are going to install a 10-foot concrete privacy fence on the south, west, and north sides of the PUD, while on the east side of the property line at 1094, my house, Manning Heights, they are planning to install a flimsy 6-foot opaque fence. Perhaps the biggest insult of all this passes is that a behemoth is built that will we'll have to navigate our way down through the neighborhood, down to and through the parking lot. If one tenant has a small event, let's say 10 to 20 guests, where will they park? They will park on the grass like they do at the 4th of July. Edge Hill is already overcrowded, and so is the Dairy Queen and the pharmacy roads. They were widened, the roads will be widened 24 feet, but has been reduced to 18. The width of Manning Heights statements have changed multiple times in the past 4 months by the RPC and the contractor. The fact is they only have to take 1 foot on each side of the road. This is not a true statement, as the width of Manning Heights in front of each home is as follows. Steve Hammer, 16.5 feet. Daniel and Charlotte Nelms, 15.7. Bobby Steinmetz and Gary and Teresa Bourbon have 11 with no room to expand.
Sir.
Robert Jensen has 14 feet.
Sir, 3 minutes is
Okay.
up. Thank you. Okay, anyone else here who would like to speak against Z70 2023? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Charlotte Nelms, and I live at Manning Heights, 1056 Manning Heights. We as residents and neighbors still oppose this zone change and proposed construction. Even with the traffic study completed, the problems with accessibility, safety traveling Manning Heights and Edge Hill still exist. The houses on Edge Hill are very close to the road, and the residents park along and partially in the street, making it even more narrow. Edge Hill is very prone to erosion, and vehicles have been known to fall in the drainage ditch trying to pass. There are no sidewalks and no pedestrian, so the pedestrians must walk in the road. I still shudder at Manning Heights emptying into the PUD parking lot with cars and truck traffic trying to pass through. Vehicles parked on both sides, backing up after loading and unloading, and trying to exit while incoming traffic enters to pass through. In addition, truck traffic from delivery of household goods, food, FedEx parcels, garbage pickup will add to the congestion. Manning Heights closely parallels Cumberland Drive, so a wide U-turn must be made to head west on Cumberland Drive, as well as a U-turn from Cumberland to Manning Heights. If Manning Heights is formally designated two-way, the entrance and exit on Cumberland becomes more dangerous. The sight lines, visibility from and to the approaching traffic is very difficult at this entrance, especially for the resident that lives at the entrance. I can see someone trying to back out of the driveway and meeting tragically an incoming or outgoing vehicle, or both at the same time. Daily, I see vehicles entering Manning Heights and then turning around in the first two residents' driveways and then exiting back onto Cumberland. Mail delivery also parks at the entrance. Two-way traffic designation on Manning Heights creates more problems than it solves.
Okay, anyone else that would like to speak in favor of Z70? I'm sorry, against Z70? Yeah. Anyone who would like to speak against? Okay. Mr. Powers, you are allowed a 3-minute rebuttal.
Thank you. Just want to address just a couple of things that was mentioned, Mr. Mills mentioned. One was the slope coming off of Mr. Jensen's property is immediately to the east of the property. It's not a sheer cliff there. It's going to be a 3-to-1 slope, sloping from Mr. Jensen's property down to that parking lot. Yes, it's going to have to be graded and lowered, but it will be a maintainable slope, not a sheer drop off. He mentioned blasting. We don't know if we're going to hit rock yet. If we do, pre-blast surveys are done, post-blast surveys are done. The blasting company has the insurance that takes care of those things, but all those are surveys of structures nearby and then before and after the blasting. So although things can happen, we do what we can to make sure that we know what we're responsible for. There is a landscape buffer against Mr. Jensen's property too, as well as down, I mentioned removing the trees along the south and west, but we are putting landscaping back. There'll be decorative landscaping there as well. Mentioned Edge Hill Drive. Just please remember we are doing widening to Edge Hill along the frontage of our property, as well as the Manning Heights, the widening. The intent is that is not going to become two-way for residents. We're going to sign that, and it's on the plan to show a sign that not supposed to exit out Manning Heights. It's really so fire department thinks that's their entrance into the site to serve a fire. And so that's why we went to 18 feet. They requested to go to 18 feet. So that is not going to become daily two-way traffic there as well. So, and just remember, this is still conditioned. We have a big hurdle to jump with TDOT. We don't know if that's even achievable, but we have to take this step first. If this is successful, we'll be able to go to TDOT, make that request, and see if this is a viable project. Any other questions? Thank you.
Okay, Commissioners, our public hearing is closed. We're back in the regular session. You've heard those for and against.
We passed it to the council the last time unanimously. I'm gonna make a motion for approval again based on the conditions in the PUD report being met.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a properly made second to approve Z70 2023. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Okay, the motion passes and goes forward to the city council.
Commissioners, your next application is on page 19 of the city staff report. It is Z9 2024. It's the application of the Quick Trip Corporation with the agent Suresh Burrell and Ram Developers LLC. This request encompasses just over 3 acres at 3.17 plus or minus. Presently zoned C4 Highway Interchange District, requested to go to C5 Highway and Arterial Commercial District. Statement for this request by the applicant is the zone change will allow for additional potential tenants for proposed retail and office development. C5 allows for uses that are not allowed in C4, such as professional office, personal care services, and other retail establishments. This would be an extension of the C5 zoning classification, and it's currently located at the northwest corner of West Vintage Way and Vintage Way intersection. I describe it currently as land cleared for development. It is in the Rossview planning area. There were no department comments of any concern submitted to this application. Major impact would be a change in the permitted uses. The staff's recommendation is for approval. The proposed zone request is consistent with the adopted land use plan. The request is an extension of the C5's commercial zoning district to the west. Exit 8 is increasing its role as a regional commercial center for the residents of the area, and adequate infrastructure will serve the site, and no adverse environmental issues have been identified relative to this request. Then you have your 2 aerial photographs and a zoning map aerial of the request, And as of 4:30 yesterday afternoon, there have been no public comments logged in reference to this application. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to try to answer them.
Okay, we're back in the public hearing. This be for case Z 9/2024, Quick Trip Corporation being the owner. Anyone here to speak on behalf of Z 9/2024? Those in favor?
My name is Suresh Burley. I live in 2529 Remington Trace. I am authorized agent and a member of the company. I've been living in this exit for last decade, and we've been more than 10,000 residents living in that exit. If any personal services needed, we had to drive all the way to Wilma Rudolph or on Madison Street, and then more developments are coming. And the main reason to change C4 request for C4 to C5 is QT and McDonald's have a lot of restrictions on the property that I can't open any retail, no food businesses. So that restricts that particular property is only for medical offices. So we wanted to change to C5 and allow some tutoring classes or personal services so that it can serve the community residents in that exit. So I do appreciate the staff for recommending, and I request the commission to approve my request. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
I do have a quick question.
Yes.
So you can't have any retail there? I mean, I can understand not food retail, but
Yes, even though retail's QT has restrictions on the property, like they have the QT, they're selling either the food stuff or any groceries. They have restrictions on that property. So I'm looking for medical offices, maybe tutoring classes, professional offices, and maybe some personal care services.
okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other speakers in favor of case Z 9/2024?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Joe Shekinab, 637 Appomattox Court. I'm not speaking in favor of it or against it, but I just want to make a statement regarding this property and regarding Rossview Road. I hear from a lot of residents that live in that area, pretty much what the gentleman just said. A lot of residents, we don't have barbershops, we don't have coffee shops, we don't have anything in that area. We have to go somewhere else to do basic stuff. And a lot of residents have voiced their concerns that they want some basic things in the Rossview area. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Okay, anybody else in favor of Z 9 who would like to make a statement? Okay, anyone here would like to speak against Z 9/2024? Anyone against? Okay, public hearing is closed. Commissioners?
Make a motion to approve because the request is an extension for the C5 commercial zoning district to the west.
Second.
Got a motion and a properly made second to approve. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion passes.
Commissioners, your next application is on page 26 of the staff report. It starts there for Z10 2024. It's the application of Chris Blackwell Construction. Request is to go from R1 Single Family Residential District to R6 Single Family Residential District. This is for a portion of a tract that's located at the northeast corner of Gupton Lane and the Gupton Circle intersection. The reason for the request is more dense single-family zoning to assist with required roadway and utility improvements. This encompasses right at 2 1/4 plus or minus acres. Would not be an extension of the zoning classification. It's described as the southern portion of the tract, and the area of the request is relatively level wooded area. The northern area of the tract outside of the area of the request is the established evergreen cemetery. This is in the South Clarksville planning area, and there is previous zoning history. Back in 2021, this application was requested to go from R1 to R4 and received disapproval at both the Planning Commission and the City Council. Page 27 of the staff report, you'll see the department comments received in reference to this application. Sewer main extension and a water main upgrade would be required. Sidewalk would be required on all frontage. Road widening and dedication would be required. It's requested to provide 30 feet of total width of right-of-way dedication and provide 22 foot of width of pavement along the road frontage of Gupton Lane and Gupton Circle, and that's for only the area of road frontage in front of the applicant's property. See the school system comments there at the bottom of page 27. Moving to page 28, this request would have increased single-family residential density. Historical estimates on the property are in the neighborhood of 26 lots if you were to fully develop it with an internal road as well as frontage lots. Staff's recommendation is for disapproval. The proposed zoning request is inconsistent with the adopted land use plan. The adopted land use plan indicates that the present R1 zoning classification is assumed to be correct unless the proposed zone is more consistent with the land use plan. The parcel was incorrectly zoned in the first place, or major changes of an economic, physical, or social nature that were not considered in the present plan have substantially altered the character of the area. The street network in the immediate area does not appear adequate for the increased residential density, and the proposed improvements do not correct the overall off-site deficiencies in the street network. North of the site of Gupton Lane has little to no right-of-way for widening, and south of the site, the right-of-way bottlenecks to another narrow stretch. Overall traffic safety concerns should limit the density of this property. No adverse environmental issues have been identified as part of this request. You'll see the two aerial photographs provided for the property, the zoning map overview of the property, and as of 4:30, there's been no formal public comments logged in reference to this request. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to try to answer them.
Quick question. I know it says on here that, and I apologize, I have not asked this sooner, that the proposed zoning request is inconsistent with the adopted land use plan. But of course, we're looking right here at it. I know that you said before that R6 is comparable density to R4. And of course, we can look on the map, on the zoning map, and we see R6 on here, a lot of R4 right up the road. Why would this one be inconsistent with the land use plan?
We have to factor in things like safety for traffic and the network that's directly adjacent to this property.
Well, and those are covered in reasons, I think, reason 3. I just was trying to figure out just the part about the not being inconsistent, being inconsistent with the adopted land use plan.
The adopted land use plan states before you should recommend approval of request that all the factors associated with it should be in compliance. So the roadway safety would be the one that triggers that to not be in compliance. It's more than just the other uses. So I know it's called the land use plan, but it covers other factors: compatibility, roadway safety, topography, several other different items.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Gupton Lane that's real narrow, right? Is that what we're looking at? Is
Yes,
that the problem?
you should be able to see some photographs I think that's Gupton Lane there.
So that would need to be widened, I guess, all the way to like 7 Mile Ferry or something, or?
I think if that was a possibility, then it would, maybe the outcome or the recommendation of this application is different. But under present conditions, I don't believe that's possible.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, end of public hearing for case Z10 2024. Chris Blackwell Construction being the applicant. Anyone like to speak in favor of this rezoning application?
Good evening. Chris Blackwell, 2091 Bend Road, Clarksville. To your question there, we did our homework with the street department and the utilities with the sewer and the water, and we've agreed to widen the road, and we've agreed to upgrade the utilities in the area. And, if that's what's holding us back, we can widen it all the way to 7 Mile Ferry. Any questions for me?
I do. How are you gonna widen it? Are you gonna buy that property, or do you already own it, the R1 that's up there on the west side going up?
I'll let the engineer speak on that, on one piece of it.
We understand you're gonna widen in front of your property, but you're saying you're gonna widen all the way to 7 Mile Ferry.
That is correct.
Bring him on.
Cal McKay, 1545 Madison Street. Honestly, I don't know how wide the right-of-way width is all the way up to Gupton. He bought the property from Mr. Chappelle. They have a working relationship. He didn't seem to think he's got any problem if he does need additional right-of-way, and if he does, it's minimal.
From his property all the way to 7 Mile Ferry?
Is 7 Mile Ferry the next one to the north? Yeah.
Yes.
It's about 1,000 feet.
Yep, the cemetery being on the right, and then.
Chappelle still owns that.
Okay.
Anything else?
So would this need to be deferred then, so we can?
Well, that's a good question. Can we
Let's
finish
get
up
to
public
public
hearing, and then I can try to answer your question?
Anybody else that'd like to speak in favor of this application? Okay. Anyone who would like to speak against this application? Case Z10, 2024. Okay, seeing no opposition, public hearing we're finished with the public hearing, commissioners.
I've got a problem at this time. I'd kind of like to have a deferral because I kind of am at a loss where this planned widening would occur and on which side, and is it the cemetery, is it the R1 that's on the other side? I'd like to make a motion for a 30-day deferral to get some more answers.
Second.
Before they answer that, Mr. Chairman, I will speak on behalf of the staff.
Why don't you back up to something that shows a better picture of the property?
Can you? Well, we don't have any off-site information, and I think, to be fair to the staff and to the applicant, if that's something that can be resolved and accommodated, is that widening? I think that's one of the major concerns for the reason for disapproval. And to be fair to the process, if that information can be provided and vetted, sounds like it's a concern of the body as well. We would like that information and formally, agree with the request of deferral to accommodate the answering of that question.
Second.
And you do have a second, so.
We've got a motion and a properly made second to defer Z10 2024 for 30 days. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed, like sign? The motion is deferred for 30 days. The case is deferred.
Commissioners, your next application starts on page 33 of the staff report. It is Z11. It's the application of Sean Robertson. Request to go from R3 residential district to R6 single family residential district. This property is west of and adjacent to Martin Street, south of the Crossland Avenue, and east of Cumberland Drive. It's just south of that intersection. The reason for the request stated by the applicant is to extend the existing R6 zoning and provide 2 single-family lots. This request encompasses .18 of an acre. It's currently described as a residential home lot. It is in the South Clarksville planning area. The street department has indicated that sidewalks will be required along the street frontage. You'll see the school system comments there on page 34. Moving to page 35, this request would create increased single-family residential density. It would be accessible from Martin Street. Our historical estimates would be 2 lots. The recommendation for this request is for approval. It's consistent with the adopted land use plan. Residential supported uses such as mass transit and retail services are in the area. The adopted land use plan indicates that it's encouraged to maintain a desirable mixture of housing types and that sidewalks will be required as part of the R6 zoning classification. It would be an extension of the R6 district, and adequate infrastructure will serve the site and no adverse environmental issues have been identified as part of this request. The next 2 are the aerial photographs associated with this request, and then you have a zoning map overview showing the crosshatch area of request. And as of 4:30, there's been no formal public comments logged in reference to this application. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to try to answer them for you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're back into public hearing. Anyone here would like to speak in favor of case Z11, 2024?
Hey guys, Jonathan Blick, 2015 Mossy Oak Circle. Sean asked me to step in for him today. I wasn't able to make the meeting, but we will be working with him on this property. His plan is to tear down the existing structure, which you guys can see it's been abandoned for some time. But his plan would be to change the R6 zoning would be to mirror the zoning to the north, which Sid Hedrick currently has listed. We're looking to get maybe 2 builds out of that. And based on the depth and the width, these homes are going to be in the $225,000 price range. So affordability, pretty good. So if anybody has any questions, let me know. Thank you.
Anyone else who would like to speak in favor of this rezoning? Anyone in favor? Okay. Anyone who is opposed to this rezoning, please come forward. Seeing no opposition, public hearing is closed, Commissioners.
Make a motion for approval as the R6 single-family residential request is an extension of an existing R6 district.
Second.
We got a motion properly made second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion passes.
Commissioners, your next application is Z12-2024. It starts on page 40 of the staff report. It is the request to go from R1 Single Family Residential District to C5 Highway and Arterial Commercial District for property located at the northwest corner of Tinytown Road and Green Acres Drive intersection. The reason for the request stated by the applicant is to provide a commercial C5 development on an arterial highway. This request is just under an acre, or is just over half an acre at .62. It would be an extension of the zoning classification if you crossed the state route of Tinytown Road. It's currently a single family residential lot and home site. There is no structure currently on the property. It is in the airport planning area. Page 41, you'll see the department comments that were received in reference to this application. I'll call your attention to the one from the street department that states access would be from Green Acres Drive only. And that's unless access appeal variance is granted. Bottom of page 42, the staff's recommendation is for disapproval. The proposed zone request is inconsistent with the adopted land use plan. Interjecting C5 highway, arterial and commercial zoning into the single-family residential subdivision frontage has the potential to negatively impact the surrounding residential neighborhood. The existing pocket of residential frontage should not be separated with the proposed C5 arterial and commercial zoning district. This portion of Tinytown Corridor has multiple properties in close proximity to the request that are currently zoned commercial and are undeveloped or vacant. Preservation of the existing residential properties and housing units should be prioritized over creating new commercial districts in an area that has substantial amount of underutilized commercial in more appropriate locations. Adequate infrastructure serves the site and no adverse environmental issues have been identified. The next 2 pages are aerial overviews of the request. The next page is a zoning map overview of the request, and you can see how that portion would interject into the R1 zoning classification frontage. And as of 4:30 yesterday afternoon, there's been no public comment logged in reference to this application. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to try to answer them.
Okay, we're back at a public hearing again, this being for case Z12 2024. Mr. Blick, I'm assuming you are on board again.
Yes, sir. Jonathan Blick, 2015 Mossy Oak Circle. So this property is on the corner of Tiny Town Road and Arterial Road and Green Acres Drive, with C5 across the street and support from the comprehensive plan as it talks about creating more complete neighborhoods with commercial in the front and housing behind. We think this would be an ideal commercial space to support some type of corner market or storefronts that would provide commercial opportunities to the Green Acres subdivision, as currently the only opportunities is directly across the 5-lane Tiny Town Road. I also like to note that the property was a residence in 1972, that was built in 1972 and condemned by the city and forced Mr. Robertson to tear the property down. He noted that in his opinion, the home was salvageable. His thoughts would be, why build back a single-family home when I was just forced to tear one down? In closing, we believe that C5 is the proper request, as if we were to request for C2, we would more likely build apartments. And we believe that Green Acres community would rather have a walking distance of commercial shops and possibly work there than a multifamily complex. So, they talked about C5 being in the area, but it's not within walking distance of that subdivision, and there's no sidewalks to those in that subdivision. So we just feel like it would support that subdivision for a local community market, as the comprehensive plan states. That's what they're looking for, is the subdivision that's breathing and operating on that commercial. So any questions I can answer.
Thank you, Mr. Blick.
Thank you.
Anyone else here who would like to speak in favor of case Z12? Anybody here who'd like to speak against case Z12? Yes, sir. Give us your name and address, please.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon. My name is Donald Neal. I live at 296 Tiny Town Road. You may not see it on the map, but that corner is extremely dangerous. Just last week, we had a car come through my yard and left me a gift for hubcap and a belly plate. It's extremely dangerous. Walking to anything that goes in there is a no-no. There's no sidewalks in that community. I'm definitely against it. For safety reasons, it's extremely hard to get in and out of my driveway in Green Acres. It's so close to Fort Campbell that at certain hours of the day, you're not moving there. I'm definitely against it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, is anybody else would like to speak against? Please, sir. Please come forward, state your name and an address.
Commissioners, I'm Darrell Anderson. I live at 2405 Green Acres Drive, the street we're talking about. My parents bought a home, one of the first homes in this neighborhood, when I was 2 years old, in 1970. This was the neighborhood that all the officers lived in. It was a nice new neighborhood, 3 to 4 bedroom houses, nice sized lots. My parents lived there their whole lives. When they passed away, instead of making it another one of my rental properties, I rehabbed the house and I moved back there. That's where I live. This is my neighborhood. The proposed new comprehensive plan has an entire section that's purported to protect and preserve and reinvesting in established neighborhoods. The plan advances the notion of preventing neighborhood decline and helping ensure that established neighborhoods continue to be livable. and desirable. This proposed use and application for change in zoning cannot be consistent with the land use plan. By rezoning this lot in my neighborhood for commercial motor vehicle trade, which is how it's defined under C5, you potentially invite and introduce new traffic, new noise, a loss of privacy. If you look at the application map that shows the zoning areas, I don't know if we can show the one with the blue zoning areas across the street, across Tiny Town, as the staff says, that one little lot, that tiny lot, and there's all sorts of commercial available lots to buy across the street. And to have someone come buy a residential lot in my neighborhood for 70 grand versus using the ones that are across the street, which there are 5 that range between 120 to 175,000, and then try to get you to flip and make it commercial, it just doesn't seem right. It just doesn't. So anyway, due to the size of the lot and the proximity to the homes, there's going to be noise, there's going to be traffic, cars running in and out, and as the other gentleman said, the traffic there is crazy coming up Tiny Town Road anyway. I can't support this, and neither do my neighbors in this neighborhood.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else? We can, yes, ma'am.
My name is Barbara Moore. My husband's Marvin Moore. I live at 2202 Green Acres Drive, right next door to the land on the house that was condemned because it was falling down and all the above, if you've seen it. To put anything there other than one home would be detrimental to the traffic, number one. I'm not going to even say the fact that my home is here, that land is there. I saw it on the map. But a commercial building of any kind would mean traffic. And if you've ever gone down Green Acres, because of the traffic and all the buildings that have come into Clarksville, Tennessee, everyone uses the Green Acre subdivision as a thoroughfare. I mean, they just come through. So the traffic is tremendous on Tiny Town Road. Someone stated that you can't get through, and you can't. We cannot get out of our driveway sometimes. We can't get out of the driveway because the Green Acres is now so heavy with traffic because they use that now because they can't get down Tiny Town Road. He's right, there is no sidewalks, and there are a lot of people that do walk. They walk to Walmart, to the family center sometimes, and then they just walk for exercise. But I would just say, no, I don't think we should have a commercial building of any kind there, even if it means it's a grocery store and there's a Walmart family like less than a half mile right around the corner. And a lot of them walk to that Walmart family center. Or whatever else that's going on, that's fine. I can do that, but to build something commercial right next to a house, I'm from Kentucky. I've only been here for 13 years. So when I saw a trailer next to a house in Kentucky, you can't have a trailer, a mobile home, unless it has the underpinning and all the stuff. It has to look like a home sitting next to a home, and I see that. In Clarksville, I'm going, oh, what did Clarksville do? But it's okay, you do what you want to do. So that was hard for me to see. I said, oh man, they put that trailer that's falling down right next to that lady's house. But it's okay. But the traffic is overwhelming. And the fact that there's a service station that's right across the road from Green Acres, that was even something, because there's a wreck there almost every day. Because when we turn out of Green Acres and they come from the service station, we're turning in the same lane. They're always hitting heads all the time. They need a stoplight. I'm not going to tell you everything you need. I was once on city council in Hopkinsville, so I'm going to be quiet. This is Kentucky, Tennessee, and I don't want to get involved. But I do want to say, no, I've done my, that's just not a good idea. It is not on many occasions. I mean, I understand that the person wants to build up, but when, okay, my 3 minutes are up. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Moore.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Moore. Mr. Blick, you have a rebuttal if you'd like to use that opportunity.
Hey guys. So Mr. Robertson has purchased the property in 2020 with the hopes to salvage the property. And then the city had forced him to tear it down based on its condition. You know, he's a larger property owner here in Clarksville. I think he owns about 200 properties. He's been sitting on this one trying to figure out an idea to get his money back out of the lot. And so he's just going to continue to hold it until he can get more dents on that. I would say that, you know, if we're not going to put C5 on a 5-lane road, where are we going to put it? It seems like it would be the best opportunity for C5, which is right there on heavy traffic. And do we really want to put more? It just seems like it would be a better idea to have C5 there, as these properties in the area do get older and may transfer to C5 as well. So would appreciate your vote in favor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Blake. Okay, Commissioners, the public hearing has come to an end. Do I hear a motion? Is there any discussion?
I do have one question. I am right, or from looking at this, the access is not on to Tiny Town. The access to the property would be on Green Acres. Is that correct?
The city of Clarksville's access ordinance would require the access to be on Green Acres.
Not on to Tiny
Not
Town?
onto Tiny Town Road unless a variance is approved. There's
that-
not enough frontage on Tiny Town Road to permit a driveway per their access ordinance.
And that's not a signalized intersection.
It's not a signalized intersection, no. And actually, I mean, when you're on site, this picture, you can see it, there's a pretty substantial curve. There's a lot of visibility from that apex, but it's a very busy area.
I'm going to make him my best friend again this week. I'm going to make a motion for disapproval as it's inconsistent with the land use plan.
Second.
Got a motion and a properly made second to disapprove the rezoning request Z12 2024. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. The motion to disapprove is the winner.
Commissioners, page 47 of your staff report is the next application. It is Z13 2024. The application is of Gateway Baptist Church of Clarksville. The agent is Nick Leverett. The request is to go from AG Agricultural District to R4 Multiple Family Residential District. It's for a property front on the north frontage of Needmore Road, approximately 395 feet west of the Needmore Road and Arthur's Court intersection. The reason stated for the for this request is for a multifamily development. It encompasses just over 4 acres at 4.17. Would not be an extension of the zoning classification. It's currently a attractive land with a grassland field, a few trees, and there's some moderate slope. Previous zoning history, there was a request in 2022 of go from ag to R5. It's recommended approval at this body, but was withdrawn before council vote. Going back, was also requested in 1995 to go to C1, both of which was recommended for disapproval. And in 2013, I believe there was a site review for a church facility to be constructed on site. If you'll turn to the next page of the staff report, you'll see department comments. Gravity sewer main extension would be required, as well as an off-site lift station upgrade would be required. Street department indicated the reservation or dedication of right-of-way for future improvements to Needmore Road. And 5-foot sidewalks would be required along the Needmore Road frontage. See the school system comments there at the bottom of page 48. This request would permit increased multifamily residential density. Historical estimates indicate 50 lots. Staff's recommendation is for approval. It's not 50 lots, 50 units. Staff's recommendation is for approval. The proposed zoning request is consistent with the adopted land use plan. The proposed R4 multifamily residential district is not out of character with the surrounding development pattern in this area of Needmore Road. The adopted land use plan states it's encouraged to maintain a desirable mixture of housing types throughout the community, and adequate infrastructure will serve the site, and no adverse environmental issues were identified relative to this request. Page 50 and 51 are aerial overviews showing the property in question crosshatched. Have a zoning map overview on page 52, and then 53 references the public comments that were received. I believe there's one by phone that's logged in, and you have a handful of emails that are presented there up to page, I believe, 60. If you have any questions for myself or the staff, I'll be more than happy to try to answer them.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go into public hearing for case Z13, 2024. Anyone here who would like to speak in favor of the applicant?
Josh Farmer, pastor of Gateway Baptist Church, 475 Ringgold Road, and been pastoring there for 8.5 years. The property has been owned for quite some time, and since I've been pastoring, the goal was always to build on that property, to build a church. Our prayer was always to build unless the Lord opened the door otherwise. The Lord recently opened the door in 2021 at the end for us to purchase a piece of property that was up for auction off of Ringgold Road. And we had no intentions of selling unless there was a reason to. Our goal was to either build a school at that point on that facility or sell if there was a reason to. And we've recently seen an open door to starting a Christian school in another facility in town that is already ready to go. And so we are looking to sell. I could speak highly of Nicholas Construction and his team. I respect him. And I think that there would be no reason or better reason to use that land than to provide more housing in Clarksville and in that area as well. And so I highly recommend rezoning for many purposes that would benefit more than just one person.
Okay, anyone else here to speak in favor of Z13? In favor of Z13? Anyone here who would like to speak against Z13? Please identify yourself and an address, please, sir.
Thanks for having me. Chris Rasnick. I live at 1018 Toller Way. I live right behind this property. I know before it was brought before you guys and it was disapproved. With this property, as you can see around it, it's all single-family residence. Even the ag across is a single-family home. Everything that touches it is a single-family home. The only R4 around this area is by the Walmart that's down the street. With this, there's a sharp turn at that property. If you come out of Sugar Tree or Camelot Hills, it's very hard to see who's coming around that curve. It's a curve with a slope. Also with that property, on my property, I get a lot of rainfall from Needmore Road in that property that floods my backyard. I know I've sent you guys photos of how much it rolls through. I've had to replace fences. My neighbors had to cut down 5 trees so far because of root rot and erosion around his trees of how much water flow comes through. So I'm just asking for you guys to disapprove because it doesn't match the surrounding area and everything else. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Rasnick. Okay, is anyone else who would like to speak against Z13?
Hi, my name is Heather Cabas. I live at 2833 Russet Ridge Drive, which is in Camelot Hills. the subdivision right next to the property in question. I'm asking for disapproval because, as Chris said, this isn't keeping with the surrounding area, the immediate surrounding area, which is all single-family property. This has been brought up before for this to be rezoned as multifamily homes, and that is not keeping with our area. In addition to that, I also would like to request disapproval because of Needmore Road. The widening on Needmore Road is far behind schedule. The circle at Whitfield Road and Needmore Road is far behind schedule. The infrastructure in Needmore, we are building along Needmore, but we are not actually widening any roads in the time frame that was laid out by Transportation 2020. The circle is way behind as well, which means that the traffic is growing in that area. It's taking far longer to get to our homes. It's taking far longer to get to work. It's taking a massive amount of time to get through the light at Whitfield and 101st. All of that adds to the congestion in the area, and continuing to build on Needmore before the infrastructure is in place to handle that amount of traffic is irresponsible in my opinion. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else who would like to speak against? Okay, seeing no opposition. Rebuttal, Pastor, would you like an opportunity?
Hold on.
The gentleman that spoke in the
Hold on.
first, in the beginning. I'm sorry, I did not get your name, Pastor. That was a mistake.
Josh Farmer. There's congestion all of Clarksville, and stuff is going on. I understand the disapproval of people in the neighborhoods. Ultimately, if we continue to own, we would be continuing to seek for rezoning, no doubt, or we would eventually build on it, building either a church facility or a school. But my take as a pastor, again, is that the Lord opens and closes doors, and that's always been our understanding. If it was the Lord's will for us to build on that property, we would have built on it in the length of time we've owned it. But he shut that door, provided a facility, saying, I'll take care of the facility for your church. You just hold on tight. We said, well, we'll build a school. The Lord said, no, we'll take care of the school. You just hold on until I give you reason. He's opened the door for us to sell that. Again, Nicholas Construction does a phenomenal job. Nick himself knows how to take care of the community, has a heart for the community. He wants to do the right thing. And I believe him and his team would make sure that the transition which he would propose to put on that property would be something that would not be a hindrance to that area, but would enhance and be a help. And so I seek your approval on it, and hope that you'll give that.
Thank you, Pastor. Okay, Commissioners, we're back into regular session.
I'll make a motion for approval because the proposed zoning request is consistent with the adopted land use plan.
We got a motion to approve. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a properly made second to approve. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign.
Nay. Aye.
All right, we've got four, the way I'm counting, 4 in favor, 2 against.
That's what I've got.
Yep.
That's what you got.
The motion passes.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to do my best football punt and send ZO2 2024 to Mr. Tyndall to present today.
That's what I do.
Commissioners, a few months ago, we received a letter from the BZA at the City of Clarksville asking for assistance in clarifying C2 when it comes to duplexes and two-family townhouses. We met with the code department a few times. The crux of the issue was the Board of Zoning Appeals was asked to interpret if a horizontal duplex top to bottom was the same as a vertical duplex left to right. The code allows for townhouses. There is no size limit on a townhouse. If you look at the definition in the zoning code, a townhouse just says that it's a single-family attached house next to another. That could indicate that it's for 2 units. C2 does allow townhouses with conditions. It does also allow multifamily with conditions. And if you read the definition of multifamily, it's intended for 3 or more units. We believe when we look back at when C2 was created, it was intended to more mimic R4 and not R2D. So after meeting with the code department, the simple change here, instead of changing the definitions, which was our initial approach, was to just change the 2 conditions there. Under C2, multifamily and townhouses, remove letter B, which is no longer needed. It talks about single-family detached are allowed on a common lot, and I don't think that's encouraged. That's what Nashville has all over the place. And instead, we're replacing that language under the conditions with B. Townhouses must contain 3 or more units and can be co-located with commercial uses on the same property. And C, at the request of some local developers, any 2-family dwelling, duplex, or townhouse in existence prior to May 2nd, 2024 may be replaced on the same lot, parcel, or tract of land. So that would be a grandfathering clause at this time. Again, this is a fix for the BZA. We are, after adoption of this comprehensive plan and after the, and we'll talk about that at the end here, after the first of the fiscal year, we hope to have the money in the budget to rewrite the zoning code for the city. It'll be a 1.5-year process likely. And that's when we'll look further at what does C2 mean? Does C2 grow into something different? Does it change? What does it become? So we're basically answering the mail that the Board of Zoning Appeals asked us to do, and the city code department is in agreement with this. This will require a public hearing, Mr. Chairman. Happy to answer any other questions.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're back into public hearing. You've just heard this information for the first time. I doubt there's going to be anybody here with much of an opinion, but you have an opportunity to speak for or against the change that Mr. Kendall is introducing. Do I hear anybody here who would like to speak in favor of ZO2 2024? Mr. Blick, you want to speak for it, don't you? No one here who will speak in favor? Anybody here who wants to speak against it?
Jonathan Blick, 2015 Mossy Oak Circle. I just wanted to bring up that the BZA request was for clarification, not to rewrite the code. Also, the zoning changes to eliminate some growth and opportunities in the C2 district. We have developed a lot of the unusable C2 lots that are primarily 30-foot wide. I refer to these as unusable lots because any commercial building that required a site plan and no 30-foot lot would pass the parking plan. This change would allow triplexes or above in this zoning. The question is, why is a duplex not suitable? Why is single family not suitable? Why is a business on the main floor and a residence above the business not suitable? Why are we making it so that you can utilize these for mixed use if you buy the whole block, but not if you just own a small section? Why is it okay for a larger investor, not smaller investors like our VA buyers who live in one side of a duplex and rent out the other? Here are some examples of properties that we've owned and sold, and one we plan to build that the City Commission has already approved the zone change a year ago to build. But one of these is a C2 single-family residence, which I guess per the zoning, if it's amended, I won't be able to build back if it burns down. And I purchased this lot, that house existing, I think it was built in maybe 2007. Then we have a duplex on 10th Street, which a military owner has bought. My 1010 duplex that's on a 32-foot lot. And then 1012 and 1014 are some of the single-family use lots, because we could have built a triplex on those two lots if we combined them, but why would we do that? Because the parking plan wouldn't work out. And then, you know, it would be just a lot more congested. And then this is my Liberty Parkway drawing. That's a 3-story complex with a rooftop access, so I think it would be pretty cool. And we would be able to get some commercial use out of that, either from the tenant operating a home business or some other opportunities. So, you know, nobody was here to speak for it, so I don't know who from the BZA requested it. I can't follow that as much, but you know, maybe a deferral or maybe a vote no. I would just like to have more time and more information on it.
Well, I'll answer two things there. One, I can't say how the code department would treat a single-family house. You probably shouldn't have ever had a single-family house approved unless it was a lot of record, and that's up to them to determine that. None of this affects that mixed-use structure on Liberty Parkway either. That mixed use has always been part of the uses in C2, and we're not changing that with this proposed thing. It just limits any further splitting of the lots, not for duplexes at this time, so triplexes and larger, or multifamily structures and larger of 3 units. But yeah, mixed use is always allowed in C2.
Well, you know, Liberty Parkway would be a duplex, technically, and then if we were to finish out the bottom, like as a triplex or a 3rd unit, it would add some more congestion, and it would require a parking plan. So that's why we decided to do a duplex and just let somebody operate there and maybe run an Airbnb or something, which may be a commercial use later on. Because, I mean, Airbnb could be pretty much commercial in my views. Like, I mean, you are running a hotel. So, but any other questions from the board, I guess y'all referred to that?
We're out of time, and I don't see any questions.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Blake.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, the public hearing is closed, Commissioners.
Jeff, John, how was the feedback from majority of builders? Did we talk to quite a few of them, or just a handful, or?
This has been out. This was sent out to the local engineering folks. It's been out. It was discussed last week at the department review meeting. I think, honestly, it was a bit of an oversight when that zone was made back in the day to not match the definitions with what was going on there. But only recently has it been an issue. As I mentioned, there's been several different code directors over the last 6 or 7 years. Each one's interpreted it a little differently. But yeah, a townhouse is a style of construction, and there's really no limit on 2 or 3 or 4 or more. So again, we feel this is like with this R3, more of a temporary thing. We're doing what we've been asked for by the Board of Zoning Appeals. And I think as we head into that zoning code rewrite, we're going to really have to have a solid talk about what we do with these smaller lots, especially in the older parts of town. What can they do? What should they do? And what is their appropriate zone?
Did it get sent out to like the Home Builders Association or just engineers?
I didn't send it out to the Home Builders Association. I think that's definitely something in the future with Karen Blick that we could get that circulated.
Could we defer this until it's been circulated? I mean,
we could.
I think it affects certain groups of builders and developers and whatnot. So the feedback on it should come from that group more than anybody. And with the planning staff and building and codes directors as well. But I think having them involved would be a huge step. So I would, if anybody else doesn't have anything, I'd make a motion to defer for 60 days just to give y'all ample time to get it out there and talk and discuss. And that would be my motion.
Second. Got a motion and a properly made second to defer for 60 days. You surely need 60 days.
That was gonna be my question. Can I amend that to
I
30
just-
days? Because I wouldn't think it would need 60 days for them to be able to,
How
I mean,
about a
that, y'all,
30
I didn't know how
deferral.
busy their schedule is and then coordinating with different entities. I just didn't know if it
We
was
can,
enough
we
time.
can defer it for 30, and if we need 30 more, we can do it next meeting.
I'm okay with that amendment to the motion, yes, sir.
So the motion's been amended to defer for 30 days.
Second.
Got it properly made second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign.
Wait, we have to vote on the motion.
You got
It's time to vote. All we voted on was the amendment.
Sorry, Jeff.
I think it was just, I reworded my initial motion.
Just doing what we're asked to do. All right, as Brad makes his way up here, we're going to head into the subdivision portion of the agenda, starting on page 5. And Commissioners, if you'll open the subdivision tab on your tablets, all the information can be found there. For the public and the commissioners, we will treat the subdivision cases, case number 9, 10, 9 and 10. There's 2 today, huh? In a consent agenda, all portions in this agenda are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the staff of the Regional Planning Commission and may be approved by one motion. However, a member of the audience, the commission, or the staff may request an item to be removed for separate consideration. The planning staff is not going to remove either of these cases from the consent agenda. The board has not indicated they are. Does anyone from the public need to discuss either of these cases from the floor? Yes, ma'am, which one? No, just tell me at this time.
I want to discuss the Everett Drive with you. My name's Diane Davis, 739 Everett.
Okay, just hold on. We'll have a separate hearing on that one. Which one's that? 15?
Case S14.
14, okay. That's case S14. We'll pull that from the consent agenda. Anyone here to discuss S15? All right, commissioners, we can have a consent agenda on S15, and then we'll go to a public hearing on S14.
Okay, good afternoon, Commissioners.
Wait. Let's get S15 out of the way first.
Let's approve S15.
Make a motion to approve S15.
Second.
Got a motion properly made second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign.
And just for the record, sorry, Mr. Parker will read the conditions for S15 into the record.
Sure. S15 conditions, approval by the City Engineer's Office and the State Department of Environment and Conservation of all utility plans before construction of utility begins. Number 2, approval by the City Street Department of all road drainage, grading, and erosion control plans before construction begins. No grading, excavating, stripping, filling, or other disturbance of the natural ground cover shall take place prior to the approval of grading, drainage, and erosion control plan. Finally, number 3, approval by the City Street Department of all driveway access locations to the public right-of-way before construction begins on site per City of Clarksville driveway access ordinance.
All right. Mr. Chairman, we will have a public hearing on S14. Mr. Parker will read the conditions in here, and we can then have any questions.
Okay, case number S14, 2024, the applicants Robert Meadows and Stephen Dennis. The request is for preliminary plat approval of Forest Park, Block 14, lots 11 through 19. The property is zoned R6, proposed 9 lots located within the city at the southeast of and adjacent to the intersection of Kleeman Drive and Everett Drive. The recommendation is for preliminary plat approval subject to the 3 conditions. Again, same conditions I just read in the record. Approval by the City Engineer's Office and State Department of Environment and Conservation of all utility plans before construction of utility begins. Approval by the City Street Department of all road drainage, grading, and erosion control plans before construction begins. No grading, excavating, stripping, filling, or other disturbance of the natural ground cover shall take place prior to approval of a grading, drainage, and erosion control plan. Finally, number 3, approval by the City Street Department of all driveway access locations to the public right-of-way before construction begins on site per City of Clarksville driveway access ordinance. Department comments are listed below there. I'll point out the street department's comments in case there's questions about that. Grading permit required for stormwater infrastructure improvements. Provide a publicly maintained drainage easement on lots 11 through 16 and 19, and maintain 50 feet between radius return for driveway and lot 18. The department comments continue on to page 3. Page 4 is the aerial overview of the site, and finally on the next page is the proposed preliminary plat that's up for hearing today. If there's any questions for the staff, I'll be happy to try and answer those. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have a public hearing for case S14, 2024. Robert Meadows and Stephen Dennis. Anyone here like to speak in favor of that case?
Good afternoon, Cal Burchett with McKay Burchett Company. We're the engineers helping with this project. This was rezoned within the last year or so to R6. And we meet the subdivision regulations. We know there's some sewer improvements that'll be made, and going to work with the street department on the access and grading. I'd be happy to answer any other questions y'all have.
Thank you, Mr. Burchett. Anyone else here would like to speak in favor of S14? Anyone like to speak against S14? Please identify yourself and your address, please, ma'am.
My name is Diane Davis. My address 739 Everett. My parents reside at 110 Dixon Circle, which is also adjacent to that area. I don't know if y'all have seen pictures. I don't see any pictures like we see before on the other cases, but that is a very large gully with drainage that goes under Greenwood Avenue across there, and there's actually 2 vents popping up on that other land. I think Skinner owns that. And it goes out into the ditch, right? About this big of pipes, and that goes all the way to the river. Now, I don't know what they're gonna do with that water, because that area has a lot of gullies, like Cleveland Drive, Swift Drive, and that too is a part of a gully. And it also fills up every time there's a heavy rain. That's what, you call it a gully washer, that's what it does. Even goes over the road. There's only really 6 houses on Everett and 2 on Dixon. So it's kind of like city living with a country feeling, and with all of the space being taken up, it's just not the same. And I really wish y'all had pictures of how that ditch is. They're gonna have to have some major work on that. I didn't come expecting anything. I just wanted y'all to know my feelings on that and have it for the record.
We appreciate your comments. Thank you, ma'am. Anybody else who'd like to speak against S14? Okay, Mr. Burchett, you've got an rebuttal, and she's brought up some issues you may want to address. You're the expert, so.
Sure, we're well aware of the ditch through there. There's actually a pipe that drains from the east that we're going to pick up and work with the street department to fix some of those issues and maintain that ditch. We will, meet all state regulations also for detention and water quality. Any other questions?
How about just water retention in general?
Sure. So
Mr. Burchett, the
Yes,
reason
sir.
I'm bringing that up is because often people think that because an existing property has a water issue, that it will go forward without any change. And
Right.
that's not the case.
That's not, no, sir. So state law requires us to slow down the water with no increase. That's a quick version of it, but we have to prove that. We have to prove that to the street department that we're doing that, and we stamp it with our engineer license that we're doing that. So that will be required. We will slow down the water or not increase the speed of it to the neighboring properties.
Any questions for Mr. Burchett? Thank you, sir. Okay, commissioners. Public hearing is closed. We're in regular session.
I'll make a motion for approval.
Second.
We got a motion and properly made second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion passes.
All right, commissioners and public, we're now moving over to the site plan portion of the agenda. This is on page 6, 7, and one on page 8. Just like with the subdivisions, you don't read it, you don't have it in place. All items in this portion of the agenda are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the staff of the Regional Planning Commission and may be approved by one motion. However, a member of the audience, the commission, or staff may request that an item be removed for separate consideration. No items from the Planning Commission staff or Planning Commission have been requested to be removed from the agenda. Is anyone here that would like to discuss one of the site plans on the agenda today? Yes, ma'am. Which number? Evans Road. Number 15, Evans Road condominiums. Okay, we'll pull that one. Anyone else from the public wish to discuss any of the other site plans? All right, Mr. Parker, would you read the conditions for cases 11, 12, 14, 16, and 17 into the record?
Yes, thank you, Commissioners. Mr. Tyndall, case number S6 2024, the applicant CBF Enterprises. The name of the development is Clarksville Faust. Proposed use is warehouse and foundry, located west of Guthrie Highway near Clear Springs Road. Staff recommendation is for is for approval subject to the 5 conditions listed. Case number SR7 2024, the applicant is CJM Developments LLC. Name of the development is Leatherwood Distillery. Restaurant, distillery, and tasting room is the proposed use, 119 College Street. The recommendation is for approval subject to the 5 conditions listed. Case number SR10 2024, the applicant's Kimley Horn and Associates Incorporated. Raising Cane's is the name of the development. It's a proposed restaurant fast food located at 2792 Wilma Rudolph Boulevard. The staff recommendation is for approval subject to the 2 conditions listed. We'll discuss SR11 further. SR12, the applicant's Elliott Partners LTD. Elliott Electric Supply is the name of the development. It's Construction Materials Suppliers is the intended use. 191 Terminal Road is the location of the property. The staff recommendation is for approval subject to the 3 conditions listed. Finally, SR 13 2024, the applicant's James Harris property. Proposed use is speculative office located at 2959 Highway 41A. Staff recommendation is for approval subject to the 4 conditions listed. Thank you, Commissioners.
Commissioners, let's get the consent agenda out of the way. That would be SR 6, 7, 9, 10, 12, and 13. We'll get those out of the way and then go back to the case that's being pulled out for separate consideration. Do I hear a motion?
Make a motion.
Second.
Got a motion and a properly made second.
Chair.
To,
Can I register an abstention to item number 12, case number SR07 2024, please?
Gotcha.
okay.
Thank you.
Got a motion and properly made second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. And one abstention.
On one case, yeah. Yeah, we got it.
Okay, let's go on to SR11.
Okay, thank you, Commissioners. Case SR 11 2024, the applicant's Marty Darnell. Name of the development is Evans Road Condos. It's proposed multifamily use located on the east side of Evans Road.
This starts on page number, let's see, 17 of your tablets there.
It is multifamily units. The staff recommendation is for approval subject to the 4 conditions listed, and I'll read those into the record. Condition 1, approval of all utility plans by the Office of the Chief's Utility Engineer. Number 2, approval of all grading, drainage, and water quality plans by the City Street Department to include road and sidewalk improvements as required. Approval of a landscape plan. and combination plat required. Department comments are listed below that. On the rest of page 17 and page 18. Page 19 does have the aerial overview of the site. And on page 20 is the proposed plan. If there's any questions for the staff, I'll be happy to try and answer those.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're in public hearing on SR 11, 2024. Marty Darnell is the owner. Development is Evans Road Condos. Who here would like to speak in favor of those condos?
Good afternoon, Cal McKay, 1545 Madison Street. Y'all may recognize this. This came through rezoning 2 months ago here, and I think it's second reading last month at City Council. 16 units right now. Might lose a couple due to grading, but other than that, I believe we meet all the criteria. I'll answer any questions.
So you're saying it passed on first reading, but did not on the second?
No, it passed.
Yeah, we got it.
It did?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, anybody else to speak in favor of SR 11, Evans Road Condos? Okay, anyone here would like to speak against? Please come forward, identify yourself and your address, please, ma'am.
My name is Deborah Harden. I live at 1782 Evans Road. The property used to be all my grandparents' property. It was split up back in 92, 93. The letter I got was for 3.7 plus or minus acres. That's not even that kind of property now. It was split up into 4 sections back in the 90s. And 2 of them have already been sold. And there's only 2 left. I live on one and my aunt lives on the other one. And my aunt's 80 years old. I'm 65. I planned on retiring there. It's paid for property. If I have to move, I have to pay for something else. So I'm gonna have to keep working until I die. If you guys let this go through. I mean, it's a single family dwelling.
We can't do anything that's illegal if it's not legally there.
I understand, but people have offered us money for those properties already, and they're not anywhere near what we even have to pay for the taxes on them. So we can't recoup any of that money to go someplace else that we could pay for. My aunt gets like $1,100 a month. I'm only getting like $1,700, $1,800 a month on my Social Security. Neither one of us can afford to go rent a place or even buy another place on that. And my grandfather was part of the 101st. I mean, he worked his butt off paying for that property. My stepfather was in the service also. He worked his butt off paying for his property. And for them to leave them to us so that we could have them for, when we retired. And, I mean, I can't do anything else. And since the 101st went in there, where we live at anyway, it floods really bad because something wasn't done properly, because now it floods really bad when it rains. And under the 1780 part of that property, there's a cave up under there. And there's, Rick Rita bought that property though, but there's sinkholes in the property. There's sinkholes in my property. I mean, I don't understand why anybody would want to put condos on property that's got sinkholes on it and that floods.
Okay.
Basically all I got to say about it.
Thank you, Ms. Horton. Anyone else who'd like to speak against SR 11? Okay, Mr. McKay.
I guess the only thing I can really address is we haven't encountered any sinkholes, and there is a large drain. You can see a majority of the property we're not using because it does flood. But
What about the difference in opinion about the acreage?
That I don't know about. This has been surveyed, and it was 2 tracks, and that's what it is.
And Mr. Darnell owns both of them.
I think he's in the, in
As
his
a
due
contractor
diligence.
buy.
Yeah, period, yes.
Ms. Harden, do you hear Mr. McKay? Did you hear Mr. McKay?
I can't hear half what I'm just saying.
Okay. He says that the developer has 2 properties under contract to purchase. He will,
Trying to get the whole road rezoned. That's what my understanding.
this is only for this.
And I got this letter from the city.
How much are we rezoning?
We're not rezoning anything today.
I'm sorry. Yeah, it's already been rezoned.
Right.
Okay, we're out of public hearing. Commissioners,
Motion for approval.
Second.
got a motion and properly made second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Okay.
All right, commissioners. Not a typical month. Under other business here, you'll see just there's a resolution to adopt the comprehensive plan. It's an exciting day today because this pretty much summarizes 18 or so, 20 months of work, a lot of setbacks, working on with that early COVID years, and really looking at the community from the ground up for the first time since the 90s. And I'll borrow a phrase that the consultant will probably use last week, but whether you're planning a wedding, planning your retirement, or planning the community, there's 3 steps. It's where are you today, where do you want to be, and how do you get there? And I think we really dove into those questions over the last year and a half with the community, with the stakeholders, with the departments, with the elected bodies to really drill down on it. I got a couple slides. These are, you can be my guinea pigs. This is what I'll be presenting to the city and the county. I'll go a little quicker here. I know you all have been really attentive to these over time. I'd like to read, for those in the audience and those online right now, the community vision statement. This was compiled with all the early input from the surveys, from the initial community events that we had. The vision statement is, together, the city of Clarksville and Montgomery County will strive to develop as a highly desirable and cohesive community, embracing smart and balanced growth and ensuring a prosperous future. Clarksville, Montgomery County will offer attractive, complete neighborhoods where all residents of all ages can live close to work while enjoying easy access to everyday goods, services, entertainment, and recreational amenities. I'm not going to read the top right, but that's the enabling legislation from TCA, and basically it says that a plan should have coordinated, adjusted, and efficient economic development for the region and best promote the health, safety, morals, order, convenience, prosperity, welfare of the inhabitants. And that's one sentence, the rest of it. So, next one. This goes on to show you that the comprehensive plan is more like a roadmap. The comprehensive plan replaces the 99 land use plan. It will provide support and policy for regulation updates and policy updates. It'll guide areas of growth and preservation around the city and the county. It'll coordinate land uses with infrastructure, utilities, services, open space, and transportation, and provide an opportunity for public engagement in shaping the plan from here and forward. What the plan does not, it will not replace more detailed industry standard plans. If we had, say, a parks plan or a transportation plan, it doesn't replace those, it supplements them. It does not regulate what can be built on a parcel of land. That is part of the zoning code, and that's a whole separate document. It does not change the zone of any properties. This is a recommendation, as you'll see when you see the land use map. And it does not allocate any funding for specific projects, so it does not come with its own funding. On the right there, that simply shows you that Clarksville, out of the top 5, 10, and 20 most populous cities in the state. We were one of only 2 that has not had a plan in the last 20 years, and now we can say we joined the list of being at least current with our comprehensive planning efforts. Next slide. So the comprehensive plan has 11 chapters. We obviously have the introduction. Chapter 2, the community profile and outreach. If you knew nothing about our community and you read Chapter 2, you'd have a pretty good sense of what we are, our ages, income levels, where people work, stuff like that. Chapter 3 goes into the vision and the guiding principles. It does a good job of capturing all the input we got from all the surveys and the public meetings, and talks about how we develop those different guiding principles. So the vision is what I read earlier. There's also 5 or 6 guiding principles also found within there. Then chapter 4 through 9 is basically the recipe of how you build any kind of city or county. You know, your land use and your development, housing and neighborhoods, economic development, transportation and mobility, utilities, infrastructure and services, parks, natural resources, and the environment. And we went through each of these chapters piece by piece with the consultant, and there's goals and recommendations for every part of those in our community. In chapter 10, we go into our planning areas, where we broke the community up into 13 distinct areas based on geography and socioeconomics, where they each have their own individual goals and objectives. And then chapter 11 is the implementation strategy, and I'll show you that in a little bit. So this is the original 1999 land use map. And I used this presentation the other day with a group of realtors, and I said, you know, where can you show a place in the community where we didn't follow our plan? And back in the day when this was done in '99, you know, Hemlock and later Google was not even thought of. The area they identified there was all going to be residential on this plan. So obviously they changed course and it became industrial when Hemlock and then later Google took over. We also have a very heavy commercial concentration around 374 and Dover Road, which we know to this date really hasn't taken off. And that's what they thought in '99. It also has a dotted line for the proposed I-840 extension, which may never happen in our community, going across the bottom there. So that just a few examples of a plan is a good thing, but things change and you have to be adaptable. Next one. So this is our now future land use map. We got away from the dot approach and tried to count how many dots were in there and what color they were. This goes to a more area-based approach. It's got 14 different future land uses, everything from rural reserve in the light green, public and open space in the dark green, Fort Campbell up there in the gray area. Yellow is dominated by the suburban neighborhood or the mixed-use residential neighborhoods. Purple is the industrial areas, and then various states of blue and red are different civic and commercial levels throughout the community. In the bottom left there, we can show you that we're taking a nodal approach to development where there's key areas around the city and the county that should concentrate our commercial and our office and industrial type growth within those areas. And they're around key intersections, probably where there's bus stops, sidewalks, plenty of traffic. We'll try to focus development in those areas as well as the other parts of the land use map that are out there. And here's just an example of the 14 land use designations. So a land use designation is not a zone, it's a collection of zones. So it's what makes up an urban neighborhood? Well, it's going to be R2, R2A, R6, R4, R3. All of those make up an urban neighborhood to some degree or another. So when you see an urban neighborhood on the plan, it doesn't magically mean R6 or R4 is going to be approved, but it gives reasons why you can approve it. But you also want to look at, are you near a major road? Do you have transportation connections? Is it safe to get to? We have, I believe, 5 residential areas, the downtown core, several commercial areas, and then the special areas of mixed use, commercial, industrial, hybrid, and manufacturing industrial as well. As I mentioned, we broke up the community into 13 planning areas, and you can see them here. And next page. Each planning area in the plan has its own 2-page spread with, on the left would be a description and then a series of general recommendations. This is the downtown area. and then it will have on the right a map, which will mimic the land use map for the colors of the different areas, as well as show you different planning area improvements. In this case, you'll see a dotted line for bikeways or road improvements or gateway improvements and flood zones or waterway access. You know, you gotta read what's up there. Improving the connections with Austin P to the surrounding community. It's very specific to the different neighborhood that or area around the city and county that area plan goes with. And again, downtown also has about 20 individual recommendations. Some areas don't have maybe 8, 9, or 10. So it really depends how that area broke it down. But this recognizes that Fredonia and Adams has significantly different recommendations and needs than downtown or Fort Campbell Boulevard. And then chapter 11, we have 15 pages of charts that look like this. Basically, this is the recipe to how to accomplish the plan. And there are things that are going to be ongoing. There are things we need to start sooner than later. And there's items we may not touch for 5 to 10 years. But they all have a timeline, a cost, a lead department, which is often the planning commission, but sometimes there's other city or county departments that are going to take the lead, or even the economic developers. Austin P, the school system, may have some tasks that we have tasked them with. It's up to their leadership of when they want to address that. And as we go through this, we plan on reporting on this annually, starting in a year or two, so that we can say this is what we're doing, this is what's changed, and we'll update Chapter 11 as needed as we accomplish things or as new issues or items arise as we go forward. Obviously, a lot of thank yous to go through. Of course, the elected officials, our planning commission here, and former planning commissioners that were here during the start of this process, the staff, our consultants from Housel Levine who've been with us every step of the way, and to the well over 1,000 community members who have either taken surveys or participated in person at our meetings or our workshops or our open houses. At this time, I would like to take any questions from the commission, and this does require a public hearing, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioners, do y'all have any questions before we get in the public hearing? Okay, we're going to go into public hearing regarding the comprehensive plan the comprehensive plan. Do you have anybody here who would like to have more questions answered or ask questions or? You don't count, John.
I do count today. Here's a member of the public. So I have a unique perspective considering I've worked at the Planning Commission for 15 some odd years, I guess, something like that. City government prior to that, under the direction of the late David Riggins, Dr. Ripple, now Mr. Tyndall. Probably had my hands on the old land use plan longer than anybody. The city developed with, I think everybody would, I don't want to knock the plan that people put the work into 99, but it's very limited in the direction. So big nod to the past directors and leadership of the Planning Commission as a whole, and the staff that initiated this. I know when Mr. Tyndall came on board, this is one of his big goals to start very early on in his tenure. We've seen COVID, tornadoes, anything else that you can imagine jumping in front to maybe slow things down. But I can tell you from both sides, this is the most in-depth review that our county and community's ever seen, by far. Been, I think, in every single meeting that's produced this document, and can say that there are things that are somewhat earth-shattering to some people, maybe my parents, my grandparents, if they're here to see it. But this is a document that's going to live past me here at the Planning Commission. I think it's a good document. And I think the public as a whole should be proud of the leadership and the staff that put this together. So with that, I hope this is the beginning of unanimous approvals across the board for this document. So thank you all.
I was here in '99, by the way.
You know as well.
I can't get away from it. Anyone else who would like to make a statement, ask questions? If not, we'll close the public hearing. We need a motion, I guess, to go forward with a comprehensive plan.
I make a motion for approval.
Second.
You got a motion and properly made second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Okay.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Profit and loss.
Last item today on the agenda is the profit and loss statement through February 29th, 2024. I'll be happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, we'll need to approve that.
Motion for approval.
Second.
You got a motion properly made second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Final item is the open public comment period for any item not covered on today's agenda. You'll be given 3 minutes.
Yes, sir. Please identify yourself and your address, just for our record.
3 minutes? So if
Yes,
I
sir.
mark on here, can I have someone else come up and finish that?
I suppose that'd be okay.
Yeah.
Okay. My name is Ken Baker. Oh, I'm sorry, Ken Baker, 3129 Timberdale Drive. My name is Ken Baker, and I've been resident of Clarksville since 2017. I represent a couple hundred homes against an HOA in our neighborhood. This is not my first time in Clarksville, as I was stationed here from 2000 to 2005. Closing out my 20 years in the Army, I knew I wanted to return to Clarksville. I lived worldwide in Germany, France, Indonesia, and Hawaii. Out of all those places steeped in culture and nuances, I decided I wanted to return to Clarksville and retire. Upon my return, I purchased a home in Autumn Creek, a subdivision off Needmore. When I bought my home, the only thing I wanted was no HOA. It was a quiet neighborhood when I moved in, even though it was close to the racetrack. In 2019, construction began on additions to Autumn Creek. When those additions started, that side of Autumn Creek asked if we wanted to join their HOA. Our restrictions were done with Bill Mace, who had no language about forcing an HOA on us. As a community, we decided we did not want to be part of the HOA, as there were no amenities or anything requiring us to be in an HOA. During this time, Mount Olive Missionary Baptist Church was also being built. This church was directly behind my property. While they removed some of the trees, it was not intrusive, and they kept a decent standoff distance from the back of my property. In 2021, I received a letter that there had been plans to develop the only green space in our neighborhood. This green space was located at the end of Patton Road. The letter stated that anyone who wanted to comment on the development of that property needed to come to the Planning Commission and state their case. The area is approximately 4 acres, and the plan was for 10 homes to be built there. While I was still on active duty then, I had other obligations and could not attend the meeting. I called the number and spoke with a representative from the Planning Commission. I expressed my reluctancy regarding it being the only green space we had. I was told that since the space had already been zoned, they would approve anyone who requested develop there. I was told that I could come in and object, and that, and this is what I was told word for word, if I tried to stop the development, I would be sued and I would lose. I looked further into who wanted to develop the property and found that Mount Olive Baptist Church. And then I decided to look at who owned Mount Olive Baptist Church, and it was David Allen, who was previously ran for mayor, and the husband of Wanda Allen, who was on the city council. Of course, individuals with these kinds of ties in the local government, they would never hear my voice, so I decided to move. When I contacted our realtor, my wife gave her idea for a home. Of course, my idea of a home included more land, but because of the housing process in Clarksville, I had to compromise on the red line that I had before, no HOA. We found our home in Timber Springs, another subdivision just down the road. It was being advertised as no HOA. This was a significant selling point for most of Timber Springs property. In 2022, we moved in and sold our home, hoping to put our issues behind us. In February of 2023, we received a letter from Larry Riccone, who you are all very familiar with. It stated the developer was turning over from a Class B to a Class A. Many residents were confused about what was being said and why we needed to start an HOA. Residents attending the meeting and Mr. Riccone told us he was not concerned about what we did with the property. The developer, is that my time?
That's your time, yes, sir. You said somebody else was gonna finish it.
That's me, sir. Monty
Okay.
May, 3212 Timberdale Drive.
Okay, you've got 3 minutes, ma'am.
Mr. Riccone walked out and told us He was there to represent the developer, not us, and it would cost us $400 an hour to speak with him. We took a vote and a large majority of individuals said no, so we just left to believe from the guidance we were given that was it. In February 2024, we found Main Street Investments, Mr. Todd Holliday and Larry Bricconi filed for the Timber Springs HOA in December 2023. They elected their board of members who were for an HOA. We were told Byers and Harvey were managing the HOA, and we had to start paying dues as of 1 April 2024. The residents felt lied to, as well as the realtors, because this was not what the properties stated. The MLS did not reflect what was being told to us. It also went against what Mr. Ricconi told us about it being our responsibility now. The developer, Main Street Investments, had given out rights to other builders for homes. We have instances of multiple active duty and retired soldiers who purchased those homes from Bill Mace, who had their paperwork stating there was no HOA. My paperwork says nothing about an HOA, and the seller never disclosed any restrictions or anything about the home. The letter we received from Mr. Tyndale states that the HOA was self-funded and had been established. If you look at the Tennessee Secretary of State's website, it shows that Timber Springs HOA was not established until 2023. The restrictions and covenants were kept from the individuals purchasing their homes. We never received these, and none of the realtors we spoke to knew that any existed. If you look at the plats for sections 1 and 2, no volume or page number was recorded because nothing had been filed. Most of you on this board are developers or realtors or have a long history working with the City of Clarksville and the Regional Planning Commission. How is it that so many residents were lied to? How is it that so many of us have this issue? Is it not an isolated incident? I bring this up because the letter from Mr. Tyndale states this is a private matter. The first plat was approved in 2006. Plat 4 was approved in 2022. Mr. Ricconi served as a county commissioner and on the Regional Planning Commission during this time. How is it that a lawyer who works for his regular job representing developers is also on the board that approves work for them? It would seem that there is a conflict of interest and issue with the Planning Commission. Looking at the city ordinances dealing with cluster developments, it states this section intends to achieve superior scenic quality and recreational opportunities close to home by providing for residential subdivisions which incorporate permanent local open spaces accessible to all residents, lots within the subject tract. It further states utilization of alternative lot sizes includes a requirement for recreation common areas and open space. Open space shall be provided at the rate of 15%.
I'm gonna suggest something here. This is a legal issue and not an issue that we have nothing to do with this process.
Let's let them finish. It sounds like this gentleman may wrap it up.
Good afternoon. My name is Luis Melendez. I live in 3276 Timberdale Drive. For the entire master plan, open space must be for the common use of all residents within the residential clusters development, and shall be for amenity of recreational purposes, and may include sidewalks and walking trails, but shall not include streets and parking areas as part of the 15% for open space. No more than 50% of the required open space may include areas located within a 100-year floodplain and drainage assessment created by the development. This excludes FEMA designated floating plains. If you look at the plan for our development, we have no open space in our neighborhood which can be used. Over half of the 50% is within a floodplain or is deemed unbuildable by the city. This has been allowed to happen for almost 18 years now. How can a developer not follow a city ordinance, yet we as a community must adhere to this ordinance. Where was the planning commission following up to ensure these ordinances were being followed? Our only actual tract of land is that the end of Colson Road. That area has an open space, but a large part of the middle of a 100-year floodplain. The developer has not even maintained the common areas we have. Residents have been mowing the grass of Colston Road because we have issues with coyotes in the area. The only area the developer has assisted with keeping mowed is the assessment of Trenton Road. Most of these will be removed because of the widening of Trenton Road. I pull up my restrictive covenants from my home in Autumn Creek. There is nothing stating there's need to be an HOA. However, the ordinance tells us there is an option not to have an HOA. It states, in the event of dissolution of the homeowners association for any reason, whether administrative or otherwise, responsibility So thank you for your attention, and I hope that you guys take our consideration into matters and help us with these issues, because we've been there for so many years, and we were told that it won't be no HOA, and now things are very hard for us these days, and they will do nothing for us with the money we'll be paying this developer. And I will ask for you guys' consideration to looking into this. Thank you.
I don't really want to respond, but I see a lot of confused faces on the planning commission here. This was brought up to the city council, I believe, a month and a half ago. The city attorney's office, as well as our office, was asked to look into this. And on the surface, when the initial gentleman here, Ken Baker, spoke at city council, I would tend to agree. I was like, well, this doesn't sound right. But when I dug into it, it's a bit of a buyer beware situation. When you close on a property, if things are not disclosed properly to you, every realtor doesn't always know what they're presenting as facts. They should. I'll go offline a little here and say sometimes people will say what they need to do to sell a house. And I believe some promises were either made or things were said to the owners of some of the later sections or middle sections of Timber Springs. There has always been restrictions filed, to our knowledge. And if you check with the Register of Deeds office, there is a restriction filed, but there's never been a, quote, HOA board, and there's never been a fee assessed on this community. It has utilized the cluster subdivision provisions in the later phases, which does require maintenance of the open spaces. The developer, as many do, maintained the homeowners association under their name. A lot will give it over at a certain point. This developer waited till just about the last home was built, unfortunately. They have self-funded it so far, but now it's time for them. They have zero interest anymore. They have sold the last lots to the builders. So it's at the point where we believe this is between the owners and their attorneys and the builder and their attorneys. I don't believe this involves the planning commission or the city council. I believe it is, if you look at closing documents, it will say this property is being sold subject to all restrictive covenants herein recorded. And a good attorney's office and a good closing office would likely print that out and hand it to you and say, here's your restrictions. Others are going to say, there's restrictions, and you got to know what you're looking at. And we've all closed on homes or anything or bought a car. You're signing page after page after page. And I'm not sure that everyone who's closing on a piece of property catches what they're signing. And I feel for their situation, but again, I don't feel that it's our issue here to remedy at the planning commission. And I'll be happy to talk to anyone offline after the meeting.
Is this something that should be remedied by the title company?
I believe the title company should be involved. I believe the closing attorney should be involved. I think it's handled at that level, I believe.
Can I at least just say that the realtors that we talked to?
We're in the meet. Well, when we close the meeting, we can have as much discussion on the floor as possible, but we could talk about this for another hour. But I'm just answering the planning commissioners' questions if they have any.
Have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.